So I've been talking about trends the last couple of shows, and I'm going to continue to talk about trends. This show is about the internal trends inside of your business. Last show, talking about the internal trends, was about cash flow and managing cash flow. This one has to do with your customer bases and your products. Okay, so how can you tell what's going on with your products and your customer bases? I talked a little, let's start with products first. I talked a little bit last time about products. Let's say you're a bottle company. One of my clients is a bottle company. How do you know which bottles are selling? This is not difficult. You do inventory management once a month, or if you're having any inventory problems, once a day, potentially. You have people sign inventory in and out. Well, why do I have you do this? Let me explain. When you're dealing with theft inside of your business, completely different topic, but it's good for you to know. When you're dealing with theft inside of your business, part of how you deal with that, part of what's happening, is that 80% of theft, more than 80% of theft in a business occurs internally. It is a saleswoman, a salesman, it is a receptionist, it's somebody that works for you, the stock boy or girl that is stealing from you. How or why do people steal? People steal for under two conditions. 80% of people will steal if two conditions are true. One is they think they can get away with it. They really believe they can get away with it without ever being caught, and they really think they need it. So how do you solve this? You don't allow the first condition to be true. You track your inventory. That way, things will not disappear without you being aware of it. They can't get away with it. Okay, so tracking inventory. So I encourage you to track your inventory daily or weekly. Obviously, you need to update your inventory every time you need to go to order. That's true. But now we're talking about tracking your inventory for two other reasons. One, dealing with shrinkage. That's what they call it. A euphemism for, somebody's walking out with your stuff, or maybe stuff gets broken. But they call it shrinkage, dealing with shrinkage, or dealing with shifts in product sales. And that's what I want to focus on today, at least the first part of today. Shift in product sales. If your favorite bottles, last time I said, find out which bottles are the favorite. Deal with the margin on that bottle. But let's talk about the shift inside of your business. A year ago, what happened in, let's say, 2011? At the end of 2011, what was your most popular bottle? Now, your gut instinct probably knows the answer, but by how much? Because your gut instinct might say, oh, it's a lot. Or your gut instinct might say, oh, it's absolutely this one, because it's your favorite. So let's use the numbers. I encourage you to use your numbers. So in 2011, find out from your 2011 numbers, what happened? Which bottles actually sold the most? Was it the big bottles, the medium bottles, or the small bottles? Which bottle was actually ordered per number the most? Is it 100 of the big, 50 of the medium, and 100 of the small? Or is it 100 of the big, 50 of the medium, and 120 of the small? Find out your numbers, go back into your inventory, go back into your ordering, and find out how you ordered. If you didn't do inventory on a weekly basis or bi-monthly basis back in 2011, that's fine. Just get an aggregate number. Get a sense for it. How many times did you have to reorder the big bottles? How many times did you reorder the small bottles? How much inventory was left at the end of the year? Or how much inventory was between the two accountings that you did? Whatever they were, once every 6 months, once a year, whenever your inventory accountings were. Go back and figure out a number, whether it's a guesstimate, but a solid number, as solid number as you can, for your product. And obviously, do the same for 2012. Do the same for February of 2013. What is selling the most between the end of 2012 and February of 2013, the end of February? We're in February now. So the 2012 number is probably the best number. January 2013 is probably, February is probably too fresh. Not enough information there. But what happened between 2011 and 2012? Do that one. Was there a switch? Did it become 120 of the big bottles and 100 of the small? 20 is not a big difference. You made 20 boxes or 20 units or 20 orders or whatever your 20 is, isn't a big difference. So your instinct, your gut may not quite pick up on that, especially if you have a particular belief system. So find out what is shifting inside of your products. Okay, let's say your product isn't bottles. Let's say your product is something else. Let's say your product is the type of service hours you have. Like, I know a consultant that has 2 different types of service hours. One service hour focuses on personal finance, and one set of service hours focuses on investment finance. Is that shifting? If you're somebody who offers more than one type of service, or let's say there's not a name difference in your service, but you know there's a difference. Like, maybe you do financial consulting. Maybe some of your clients are personal finance, and some of your clients are business finance or investor finance. Just do a head count. Look back in your hours, whether it was in 2011 or whether it's 6 months ago. Pick a time period that's solid for you that you can approach. Let's say 6 months ago. No, let's say 6 months ago. You go back and you go, how many hours were spent on personal finance clients and how many hours were spent on investor finance clients? How many hours? Now, 6 months later, 8 months later, a year later, pick your number. How many hours are being spent on what type of client? The trend, the difference, the move. Let's say personal finance was 55% in 2011. Personal finance is now 75% in the end of 2012. That move is important. It's a move having to do with the internal movements inside of your business. For whatever reason, the marketing you're doing, the grassroots marketing, the networking you're doing, the clients that you're working with, the word of mouth that's getting out there is making your personal finance business grow more than your investor finance business. It may or may not have anything to do with your preference or your personal opinion about which one you're better at. It really doesn't. It really has to do with, well, what's moving out there? And then the question is, if you've noticed this trend, this shift, this subtle shift between the 2 different products that you offer, personal finance, if you notice that that is getting more growth in the last year, well, take a guess at what you think it is. What do you think is creating that growth? What do you think is happening there? Does it have to do with some marketing that you're doing? Does it have to do with a client that has been using word of mouth to bring you lots of other clients? Does it have to do with that really you're more comfortable with that? Or is it an external trend? Does it have to do with that the market is shifting? Does it have to do with that out there your customers and clients are needing something different? You want to be sensitive to this trend. Why? Because whatever product is being successful, you want to cross-check it. Is it in alignment with the mission of your business? Is it where you want to go? Top down, right? The top-down question. Is it in alignment with the mission of your business? Is it where you want your business to go? Because it's happening. And do you want to join that train? Now, I suggest more than 60, maybe 75% of the time, you just want to join that train. You just want to be able to continue to recognize that that's a strong part of your business and support any and all marketing efforts that you're making in that area because they're probably working. I'd say more than 50% of the time, the reason why an arm inside of your business is growing is through either direct or indirect marketing that's occurring. Something you're getting known for, something that people are talking up, or someplace that you're going in your networking efforts is making that part of your business successful. That's a really good indicator that that's working for you. If you're doing the same amount of time on marketing on the other arm of your business, like investor finance consulting, if you're doing the same amount of marketing on that arm, but it's not growing, something there isn't working for you and your business and the effort and time and money that you're putting into that form of marketing. You want to address that form of marketing. It's either not working, you want to drop it, you want to, maybe it's you're really not spending as much time doing that marketing, so you specifically want to be able to upgrade that form of marketing if you want to keep that part of your practice solid. Now, I always encourage you to keep both arms of your practice solid unless you specifically want to close down one arm of your practice. I encourage you to do marketing on, if you have two different arms of your practice, I encourage you to do marketing on both arms, because if you have 2 products or 2 target markets that you can work with, your chances of being able to move with the market, being able to take advantages of external trends that are occurring is doubled. So if that's you, if you have more than one particular arm of your business, even if it's a subtle difference, I encourage you to market both arms so that you can take advantage of external trends. This feedback for you specifically has to do with how well is my marketing doing? How well is my marketing effort working? And it may just be that it's not working very well. Okay, so that has to do with what are customers buying more or less of in your business. The second thing I want you to pay attention to, coming out of customers, coming out of products, sort of, but really customers, who's your best customer? What was it that changed from the previous year? Maybe before your best customers were people who were, let's see if we can pick a different market, because if we do personal finance and investor finance, almost immediately that answers who are your best customers. Okay, let's do it this way. First and foremost, you want to know who your single best customer is. Now, I suggest that you log who your single best customer is based upon the cycle of your business. Like for my business as a consultant, because a lot of people work with me on a 3 to 6 month basis. Every 3 months, I need to log who is my biggest client. And then who are the other clients that are below them, and who are all the clients that are in the periphery that I'm currently not in direct contact with. You will find out of your client list that you have, let's just say you have 100 clients on your client list. Past clients, people who've worked with you, people who still call you from time to time. You could have 100 clients. 1 or 2 of those are going to be your best client. Then you're going to have about 10 that are currently active, or 10% of your client list that's currently active and engaging with you. And then you'll have like a whole another 20 or 30% that are once in a while people, and a good 60% that are no longer engaging with you. You want to track all of these people. Like I said, I do it every 3 months, specifically having to do with my most active client and the 10% that are ongoing clients. I like to keep track of this focus. And the reason why I like to do that is because I want to know where I want to put my focus and my time. Where do I specifically want to be able to encourage, garner, foster their focus? Usually there's 1 or 2 customers that are your best customers, and then you have about 10% of your client list that will be active customers, and a whole other 20 or 30% that are just kind of reoccurring customers. People who come back once in a while, they still use you, they still connect with you, but really they're not regular customers anymore. And then you'll have a whole other almost 50% of your client list or more. But it's different, depends on how long you've been in business. 50% of your client list or more that are just people who used to use you. They're past clients. They're not using you currently, but you still want to keep track of them. Okay, why the breakdown, Christina? First, you want to, when you show up for your day, you want to action the top 10% of your clients. Those are the clients that get your attention and focus. They're the ones who get your energy. They're the ones who are you're paying your bills. They're the ones that are current. They're the ones that are the most sensitive to how quickly you respond to them because they have current projects with you. Those top percent, and it's just easy. You just write them down. What's the name of the top 10 clients you have, or the name of the top 10% of your clients? Write them down and go, have I actioned them today? Just do it. Just do a simple review at the end of your week, at the end of every other day. Like for me, I do it twice a week. I look at the list and I go, did everybody get attention this week? And then there's all the other people. Okay, all the other people who check with you once in a while. At the end of a month or 2 months, depending upon what your business cycle is, you go, have I connected with those people in the last 2 months? Why do you do that? The reason why you do that is because you can reactivate that 20 or 30% that have already worked with you in the past and still have a positive rapport with you. You can reactivate them as into being clients. You simply send them an email called checking in. Hey, I'm just checking in with you, wondering how things are going. I enjoyed the last blank, blank, blank project we talked about. Or I'm just checking in with you because of blah, blah, blah. Come up with a reason, simple, very simple, no sales pressure, nothing. Just simply, I'm checking in with you. It is a reminder. It's a reminder to them that you remember them directly. This is separate from any newsletter or blogging that you do, because this is a direct ping to that client. It's intentional to keep them looping back in case there's the opportunity for them to loop back in with you. The other 50% or 60% of your list specifically is going to be more for you doing your general marketing too. Your blogging, announcing a new course, a new seminar, a new product, your newsletter, whatever it is, you want to continue to send those people general information, especially if you have any new marketing campaign, any new material, you want to make sure that that group gets it. And that happens once every 6 months, maybe once a year. You tell me how often it happens in your business. This is how you can manage an email list without getting overwhelmed by how complicated it is. I don't know about you, but email lists to me, this whole marketing to email list to me, can feel very much like it's just dead space. Who am I marketing to? It's just dead space. What use is this to me? I mean, I have over 500 people who are logged on to being active with the meeting that I do once a month. Do you know how many people show up? 1/10 of those people show up. I get 40 to 50 people a month who show up to that meeting. 1/10 show up. And of those, how many are recurring? Almost 50%. Maybe 35 to 40%. I have to do that number. I haven't done it in the last 4 months or so. Used to be 50%, but now I'm not seeing as many people reoccurring. So, what does that number mean? The number means that my energy and effort and focus are going on the people that are currently paying me first. Then I'm being able to reroute in or re-engage people that used to pay me and still find my services valuable. I still have a connection with. They're warm leads. They're easy to reactivate. It's easier to get them to reactivate than it is to get somebody who's completely cold to you and doesn't know you at all. So why not use that leverage? You've already built a good rapport with them. Just keep track of them. Okay, what's another idea? How were most of your sales made in 2012? Now this really is a direct marketing question. How were most of your sales made in 2012? Were they, I have a tendency to think of consultants. So let's go for a minute. Were they in store? Let's say you're a storefront. Were they in store? Were they online? Were they wholesale accounts? Who is buying the most of, and how were your sales made? This is huge, especially if you're doing a retail product. Knowing how this is occurring is hugely important. How can you sell more through the sales channels that you currently have? Is it possible that maybe you should pull back on some of the less profitable sales channels that you have? Or eliminate them. Remember, every channel that you have, your in-store, your online, your wholesale accounts, every channel you have, every client you have, every channel you have requires effort and focus to keep them there. Which ones are successful? Like your online. Is your online presence bringing you more sales? A retail storefront almost always costs more. And it's a real heartbreaker to close your retail storefront. If you start as a retail storefront and you find your online sales are making you more, it's a real heartbreaker to close the retail storefront. But there's a point where the value of the retail storefront is no longer supporting or worth the cost of your supporting your online sales. Let me talk more about what I mean. Let's say, let's say you're the Gap. Let's say you're Abercrombie & Fitch. Maybe Abercrombie & Fitch is a really good one because their particular retail storefront is very trendy and very specific. What if they were actually making more sales online than they were in their storefronts? What would they do about that? Every channel costs you money. Your storefront costs you your rent. It costs you your employees. It costs you the time to stock and store inventory and order inventory. Your online store costs you distribution costs. It costs you your social media marketing. It costs you paying the fulfillment center, right, as part of your distribution. All right, that's separate from developing the product, right? But each one of those carries a cost. The question is, which one are you making the most sales out of? And if it gets to the point where those numbers are highly skewed, I would strongly encourage you to consider closing one of them down. Like, let's say Abercrombie & Fitch is now doing 50-50. I don't know what Abercrombie & Fitch are actually doing as far as sales. I have no idea what their actual percentages are. But let's say for a minute it's 50-50. And you might almost believe that. Of like a Sears, they might be 50-50. Of a Gap, it might be 50-50, right? I mean, how many of us buy online these days? A lot of us. Walmart might be 50-50. Target might be 50-50. But if Abercrombie & Fitch or Walmart or Target pulled their anchor stores, their brand would completely shift. Let's look at another brand. Amazon.com. Amazon.com has no storefront. For them to open a storefront would completely shift their brand. Right? 100% of their sales are online. If Abercrombie & Fitch found that 80% of their sales were online, how many storefronts would they need to actually keep? They might actually find that closing storefronts, like Best Buy is currently choosing to do now, that closing storefronts is actually profitable to them because you only need a certain amount of storefronts to keep the retail image alive enough that the people who are used to walking in and buying the clothes still have a place to go. You don't need 5 in Pasadena, Arcadia, Baldwin Park, or San Marino. You don't need 5 Abercrombie & Fitches to have people to be able to drive to your storefront if 80% of your sales are online, right? What if you're a service consultant? Maybe you don't need a retail storefront at all. Maybe you really just need a home office and a telephone. I am a great believer in constantly adjusting and closing down the assets of your business, things that feel like they're standards, if they're not bringing you a solid return. And that return might be goodwill, it might be actual equity, or it might be actual cash in your pocket. But you need to cross-check it. Where are most of your sales made in 2012? How were they made, I should say? How were they made in 2012? What distribution lines are working for you? Once you know which distribution lines are working for you, the second half of this isn't just retail versus online. It's where does your marketing dollars go? Where does your expense dollars go? Right? This is my challenge for you. Where does your marketing dollars go if you're finding that your online sales are outstripping your retail sales? Maybe it's time for your marketing dollars to be focused on developing what's already happening, supporting what's already happening. Let that online sales grow. Do more social media marketing. Do more networking. Hire more people to do Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn. If that is what is happening as a trend in your clients towards your particular business, go with it. Do more. Pull expenses or pull resources from maybe your storefront in order to support that. The best thing to do is to go with the growth that's in your business. I talked last time about the buggy whip story. If you find that your buggy whip sales are going down because there's a new invention called the automobile, you might want to figure out what product does the automobile need that's right next to your buggy whip so that you can transfer over to what the new trend is occurring. If you're a bookstore, we saw a lot of them close down this year. What's the new trend? If you're a clothing store, what's the new trend? If you're a newspaper, bookstores and newspapers in particular have been hit very hard last year, or in the last 2 years, because of this trend. People are getting their news and their information online. They are rarely, the younger generation is rarely asking for the physical newspaper to be delivered. Okay, so 3 very straightforward internal trends. Customers, what are they buying more of? Who are your best customers? How do you keep track of them? How do you keep them happy? And where are most of your sales made so that you can fine-tune your expenses and fine-tune your marketing efforts?